right, let's start with this, Cliff. One of the things I noticed was Mike Pence really hitting that line in his oath about protecting the United States from enemies within and without, or something to that effect. I can't. And it was as if he was
he's
like
feeling a little insecure too.
well, it's as if he was punching that so that when he has to call back on it, when he has to sign on to the impeachment of President Trump, that he's got some. Well, you remember when I said that up on my vow last night. The New York Times reported the following: the FBI is leading the investigations, or I should say, Manafort is among. Paul Manafort is among at least three Trump
people being investigated.
At least three Trump campaign
and you know
advisors.
What's amazing about that article? I don't mean to cut you off, Sam, but I found this so amazing, which is Flynn isn't even included.
Well, wait a second. Let me just read what it is because people don't know what it is. Is among at least three Trump campaign advisors, and in other places we've heard four. So Flynn is not included in this. Whose possible links to Russia are under scrutiny. Two others are Carter Page and Roger Stone. The FBI is leading the investigations, aided by the National Security Agency, the CIA, and the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Unit. The investigators have accelerated their efforts in recent weeks, but have found no conclusive evidence of wrongdoing. One official said intelligence reports based on some of the wiretapped communications had been provided to the White House. Now, we should go on to say, just to be fair here, that they're not saying that there's any conclusive evidence at this point. This is just saying that you have 4 or 5 agencies that are working on, an investigation. It is also sort of sideways.
Well, there's a key, just for context for people. What you said is exactly right, but also the reason that they're conducting this investigation is apparently from evidence or whatever they came across that made them think they needed to conduct this investigation by. There were some people in both the Ukraine and Russia, with ties to Putin and the FSB, who because of that, they had been wiretapping already. So it wasn't like they went out and said, we need to wiretap these 3 Trump guys. Some evidence apparently came across them, names mentioned, who knows, we don't know, by wiretapping these guys who are known to be Putinites or have ties to organized crime there or whatever it may be, but that they were of interest. So
the decision to open the investigation was not based on a dossier of salacious, uncorroborated allegations that were compiled by that former British spy. The FBI is also examining the allegations in that dossier and a summary of its contents. Representatives of the agencies involved declined to comment. Of the half dozen current and former officials who confirmed the existence of the investigations, some said they were providing information because they feared the new administration would obstruct their efforts. All spoke on condition of anonymity because they're not authorized to discuss the case. So So the key here is there are multiple investigations now into Trump or into figures that Trump has surrounded himself with for these kinds of connections. This is a different investigation from the as you said, the dossier and what is in there and other various connections that Trump has had. So there you go. And we should also say, look, this is another leak by we don't know who, presumably. I mean, it'll be interesting to find. It would be interesting to know what agencies these people came from. If the leaks came from the CIA, as opposed to, or let me put it this way, if the leaks came from any specific agency, it would give us a better sense of what the agenda is behind our knowing this. If the leaks, if the leaks have come from the FBI, it's another thing than it would be if it came from the CIA, just in terms of getting a sense of what the agenda is. Because we know that there's at least been some reporting that there's been a battle between the CIA and the FBI on this, but it seems like the FBI is not necessarily as aggressively fighting against this. I mean, it's impossible.
And we know that there's a third investigation by the Justice Department into Comey and his behavior, and we don't know this for a fact yet. It's been written by a couple. What's his name? Schindel, who's who ironically enough writes on national security for the Observer, who's I guess Trump's son-in-law is working on selling that. And he wrote about, and again, I don't know if this is true. I just know what he wrote.
Well, that's one thing that we're going to talk about more going forward, I think, Cliff, in the coming weeks. But right now, his foil is the press, right? And he doesn't have Hillary Clinton anymore. It's very hard to imagine him being able to go out and tell the American public that Nancy Pelosi, through her secret powers, or Chuck Schumer, through his secret powers, are preventing the Republican agenda, right? This is the guy who said, I can do it all by myself. And he's not just doing it by himself. He has a Republican House and a Republican Senate. And so it is going to be interesting to see who becomes the foil. I'm not convinced that Paul Ryan is really in as comfortable of a situation as he appears to be in, as he probably thinks he's in at this point, because I think Donald Trump will turn on a dime if he feels like he needs to at some point. And it's a whole new ball game.
And they all clearly know that, too. I mean, it's not like he didn't, again, what you saw during the campaign is what you get. And what you saw is, him lashing out, not even just for people like Paul Ryan and most of all Mitch McConnell a bit, not just for them insulting him, but for not giving themselves over to him fully. You know what I mean?
Yep.
For just sort of not saying how amazing he was. And I mean, again, that is his disposition. Even once he's elected president, he's up, tweeting stuff at night about how his ratings are better than Arnold Schwarzenegger's. I mean, again, this is who he is. There's no sort of hidden guy here. George W. Bush, I think a lot of us had a pretty good idea what he was, but he at least, he ran as a compassionate conservative. He said on a number of issues like campaign finance reform and an assault weapons ban, other stuff, he supported them, and then just magically kind of ignored that part of things when it suited him. But, he at least tried. Many people thought he was going to be a lot more moderate because he ran as somebody much more moderate. There's no hiding what Trump is. The level of ignorance, the level of vitriol and insecurity, this has all been on full display.
All right, so just wrapping up that New York Times story, I mean, I think like the bottom line is we don't know any more, really, I think, broadly speaking, than we did before. I mean, I think we had a sense of that there was an investigation going on about banks, Russian banks, and money coming into the country, into campaign advisors for Donald Trump. The real question going forward is going to be, is there going to be a Saturday Night Massacre where we see mass firings of, now we're going to have a new head of the CIA. We're going to have a new head of the Treasury. We're going to have a new head of the NSA. The one area where we're not going to have a new head is the FBI. Now,
but it's also
Jeff
important
Sessions
to note that
is going to be his boss. But
that it wasn't even the head of the FBI who was deep throat. So it was somebody higher up, but it wasn't, the point being here that there will be people, the question now becomes, in a government bureaucracy, and there will be many people there who either are not Trump fans right now or won't be eventually, will our government work? If it works like it's supposed to, like it did with Nixon, you will have people come forward because, again, the guy comes to office as of this moment, he's technically in violation of our Constitution.
But wait a second. There's two different things here, though, Cliff, because they're saying clearly in this leaks, anyways, that the investigation has not found anything conclusive. As of now, Donald Trump has control of the apparatus directly of all these investigations. I mean, maybe we're just, a day away from Pompeo on Monday, but these investigations can be ground to a halt.
Oh, there's no doubt. But again, there are people inside of these organizations, not on the top level, not who are the directors, who have access to certain materials, who come across things. And the question is, will somebody who comes across something, will they share it? Already we don't know who's leaking stuff from the CIA, but it doesn't mean it's the CIA director. Somebody's putting things out there on Trump right now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that person won't still. So, again, I'm not predicting it will happen. I'm actually making a statement that I don't know if it will or not. And I think that's going to be a big test for whether our form of government works.
I think I think the real signal is going to be, and no, I mean, look, I don't think that's indicative of our government necessarily working, right? I mean, that you're in the middle of an investigation, you haven't concluded anything, and you start leaking this stuff out. The question is whether or not the investigations get shut down, and the only way that we're going to be able to tell that is, I think, with what happens with James Comey. I'm not convinced that he doesn't want to pursue this investigation. I just don't think we hear these leaks without.
I guess I'm saying I'm not even talking about the leaks right now. I mean, somebody's doing it clearly. They may be doing it for various reasons. They're angry at Trump. I'm talking about if he does what you fully expect him to do and what I fully expect him to do, which is to do everything he can to go to these supposedly independent organizations and shut down any investigation into him. To me, then the question of government working is, are there enough other figures there that aren't just political hacks that somebody makes sure the evidence sees the light of day, if it exists?
Right.
And then only time can tell that. Right now, what's being leaked out is, you're right. We're in the midst of an investigation. There's really no reason for the material to be leaked out right now. It's somebody who's pissed off, probably. I mean, maybe it has something to do with him referring to the CIA as Nazis. That might have upset somebody over there a little bit. But eventually, if he does shut these investigations down, as I think we fully expect that he will, or do everything in his power to do, then it's a question of who there is going to have that kind of courage, who might have already seen the information when he does shut it down, who has enough information that they think they can get it out there. And I guess only time can tell with that kind of thing.
All right. Well, let's
we don't know.
Let's move on. And like I say, I think people just keep an eye on James Comey, because I think if James Comey leaves the administration in the next week or two, or month or two, then I think there's something really problematic going on. There may be something problematic.
Well, again, remember, there's an investigation into Comey, so he could have. I mean, with what he did.
Yeah.
And that's where I guess I was saying right before when we stopped because Obama was getting on the helicopter. There's some writers, people have written about Giuliani and even Eric Prince being ensnared in that. So who the hell knows, right?
We'll see.
There's lots of things out there right now. I guess we're just going to have to see what happens.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Subscribe.